Do you feel like the greatest player of all time?
I don't know. I don't really feel like much. I just feel like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Today, I have on a true legend of Starcraft, the highest prize pool earnings player of all time, the player who shattered the minds of Starcraft fans and flipped the narrative of the lowly foreigners bowing down to the Korean overlords. Some say the greatest player of all time, Basilisk's Serral. Before we jump in, if you're enjoying my work and want to see more like it, leave a like, drop a comment down below, and if you haven't already, get subscribed. Without further ado, here's my word with Serral. Joona, thanks so much for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no worries. I think it's always fun to talk about StarCraft and the scene in general.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool to, I think, give people a bit of a look into how people feel outside of just like seeing you in tournaments. So, one question I've gotten into the habit of asking everyone is like, how'd you get into StarCraft in the first place?
Well, I actually got into StarCraft through my brother mainly. Basically, he just found a StarCraft 1 CD in one of our closets and started playing it, and I basically just followed his footsteps, started playing the game as well. Mainly just arcade stuff at the start, that kind of very casual stuff. And naturally, when StarCraft 2 was released, I instantly started playing that with my brother still. And yeah, we just kept going from that point, and now we are here.
Well, that makes sense. Have you ever been really deeply involved in like any other games?
No, I haven't. I did play a lot of games, console games at first and that kind of stuff, but never really deeply involved in anything, just casual playing and having fun.
So while I think you were definitely known among like very hardcore fans prior to 2017, it seems like 2017 was really the first year that you rose to a lot of international recognition. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. 2017 was my breakout year, and that was the year I also finished my school and went full time. So it was just a breakout year for me in general.
Finished like high school?
Yeah, high school.
Makes sense. So you've had a lot of incredible wins. Is there one that really kind of stands out to you as the most important or most meaningful?
I would still say the most important and meaningful win for me was the 2018 BlizzCon win. I think that was just a one-time experience, and nothing really came close to that afterwards. But yeah, I don't know, that event was just very amazing, and I think BlizzCons always were very nice events, all things considered. So that was just one of the first biggest wins. Always had a good 2018, pre-ordered that already, but just winning the World Championship that year was kind of the crown of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it might not have been a one-time event if BlizzCon sort of continued, but we can ponder about what could have been. But that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I think that was, I think the win that a lot of people remember you for, even people who aren't super hardcore into StarCraft. Is there any specific defeat in your career that really pains you to look back on?
There's actually a bunch of defeats that kind of make me a little bit sad. I would say I am Katowice was always a bit of a weakness for me. I'm always a bit sad when I think about my match against Su, and that was 2020. No, that was 2019, and against Cest in 2020. Both of those series I lost 3-2, and they were very sad moments for me, just because I think I had a really good winning chance, and I think that player matchup was also very good for me, but they managed to pull it through. Obviously, the Su win ended up being a very nice story, so that was nice for him. But yeah, obviously, I would have rather won back then as well.
You would have rather crushed Su's dreams?
Yeah, I would have. But yeah, those are like probably the two biggest disappointments. And then also WESG against Innovation, where I lost 4-3. It was a pretty big disappointment. The series is not something I would like to see again.
Yeah. So you've won a lot of prize money during your career. Do you feel like that influx of cash changed your life at all?
No, it didn't really change anything for me, really. Obviously, I do understand that I have my future kind of well, my future in good hands at least, and yeah, it just gives some sort of feeling of safety or feeling of say how the future looks like. It looks very good, but didn't really change how my life has been looking for the past years.
Yeah, you don't seem like the kind of person who would be changed a lot by money, honestly.
No, I don't think so, either. But yeah, it just hasn't. I mean, it's just always been very similar in my life, I feel like.
That's cool. I think a lot of people struggle with that sort of thing sometimes, you know? So it's nice that you haven't. Was there a certain moment when you realized that StarCraft 2 was going to be a career for you?
I don't think there's a clear moment when I realized that, but obviously there were some stepping stones there. One of them was just getting my first organization when I joined Excellent Gaming. It's actually a little bit of a fun story since I actually got into Excellent Gaming by playing a tournament that had a prize pool to join Excellent Gaming. So that was quite the experience, and I managed to win the event. We had some good Finnish players there, and that gave it a little bit of a professional touch. And just the whole thing felt a bit more professional after I got my first org under my belt. But obviously, at that point, I still had a lot of school in front of me, and it didn't feel like I would necessarily be like a top player or anything, or that my goal would be to go full-time pro gaming. But yeah, after winning my first Finnish events, I think that's like probably when I started thinking about it seriously, and that this would be like 2014, 2015.
Oh, so it's been a long time, yeah, where you've had that mindset. So you've had an audience with the Finnish president, and obviously received a lot of media attention internationally, but especially in your home country. Do you ever get recognized in the street of Helsinki or any other cities?
Well, I don't really go to the cities too much, so I wouldn't know, but I did have some, well, very few of those situations. I was once in a supermarket and someone recognized me there, but to be honest, besides that one time, it's not really very common and nothing really comes to my mind. But yeah, actually coming to Home Story Cup as well, someone recognized me at the airport, in the Düsseldorf airport. He actually didn't even know about Home Story Cup, so it felt like he was coming here, but he just randomly recognized me there. And yeah, it was nice, but in general, it's not really too common in Finland, at least.
That's a pretty weird coincidence.
It is. Especially since he had no clue about Home Story Cup. Yeah. He had no clue where he was.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, you know, he's like 1 hour away from probably the biggest event in Germany.
Yeah.
And he's not aware, but he knows who you are. There you go. You're more famous at Home Story Cup. We discovered it here.
Yeah.
So, you know, you spent some time in Korea for GSL vs. the World. And so obviously, you know what Korea is kind of like. I think a lot of people have hoped and, you know, sort of wondered why maybe you haven't competed in GSL Code S. I think people view that as maybe one of the very few things that's maybe missing from your career is a Code S title. I guess, how do you feel about that? Is there a reason why you never really kind of made the time to compete in GSL?
Well, I just never really saw the need to go to Korea and prove myself. And in general, I just don't like the idea of going there for whatever the duration is. I'm not sure what it is now, but at least it used to be. I think it used to be more than 2 months. And I didn't really want to live there for that long. And obviously flying, I'm not even sure if it's allowed, but flying from Finland every time for a match wouldn't really be a great option either. So it's just not something I want to do. I could do it, but if I don't want to do it, should I really do it then?
Oh yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Do you care about the greatest of all time debate in StarCraft 2?
No, not really. It is something that I guess it's nice when people call me the GOAT, but I don't really care too much. Just because I feel like for the most part, for the most people at least, I feel like it's just the people who, if someone's a fan of someone, they a lot of the time think he's the GOAT, and it just goes down that rabbit hole. So I don't really care too much about it.
Do you feel like the greatest player of all time?
I don't know. I don't really feel like much. I just feel like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It's difficult to praise yourself that much.
yeah, it's difficult to praise myself that much, but I'm probably on the more successful side. But it's
Probably.
always hard to say if I'm the greatest one.
If you were going to pick somebody else as the greatest of all time, who would you pick?
If I would have to pick someone else, I'd personally probably go for Rogue, just because he's a big game player. He's not the greatest in small events or consistency, but he's probably the best big game player.
Yeah, I was recently talking to Wax from Team Liquid. He kind of agrees with that sentiment that, Rogue had a tendency during his career to really step up at the events that were the most important. And, I think the most successful player and the greatest player of all time are almost like different conversations. Because of course, winning events makes you great, but winning the biggest events makes you greater. So I think Rogue is a really interesting choice there. I think a lot of people have a tendency to give the nod to Maru over Rogue because of all the GSL Code S titles. But I think what you said about him, even though he's amazing, kind of not a big tournament sort of player. He doesn't really show up at some of the World Championship type events. So that's an interesting perspective. So when you were younger and you were more of an up-and-coming player, were there any particular pros you really looked up to?
Well, one of the first pros I looked up to was actually Xavier, and he did what he did, and that's done. That's an old thing already. But obviously, he didn't touch Starcraft 2 ever, so he's not one of my Starcraft 2 idols. But I already watched back in Brood War. I was also, after Xavier, I was liking Jaedong a lot. And obviously when Jaedong did his move to Starcraft 2, I was a big fan of him. But besides that, I would say TLO was probably my favorite foreign player. And yeah, liked a lot of the stuff he did and liked him as a person as well. And probably later on, I would say Su during like years 2016 was probably who looked up to the most.
Oh, it's like 1 year before you kind of got on his level. It's kind of interesting. So you watched a lot of Brood War then?
No, I wouldn't say so.
But you were familiar with Xavier. How long ago did you start or get familiar with the Korean Brood War scene? Like, was it like during the era, or did you sort of watch it like after the fact in VODs?
Well, a lot of it was watched before, after in VODs. We watched a lot of the games with my brother, and we watched live and VODs. We used to wake up a lot of the time because obviously those matches were very early. Our time, we used to wake up very early. I had some memories, Christmas Eve and that kind of stuff, waking very early to watch some Starcraft. But yeah, just a couple of years before Starcraft 2. So not a very long history, and I think my brother was more interested there than I was. But like I said, I was there with my brother.
Do you think you play Zerg because you looked up to players like Xavier?
No, I don't think so. I picked Zerg because my brother picked the pros in Brood War. So basically, that means instantly that I couldn't pick the same race. So that was out of the calculations. Then I initially picked Terran, but I didn't like it, so I ended up with playing Zerg. That's the whole story. When it comes to picking Zerg in Starcraft 2, maybe I just wanted to keep going with the same race, but I do also like the playstyle. Like I could have obviously switched at some point, but I just always stick with the race because I like the reactive playstyle. I like the mass stuff and kind of just overwhelm the opponent. So I wanted to stick with that.
Do you think you were a good Brood War player?
No, I wasn't. I was mainly doing fun stuff there, and I was playing some one-on-ones, but I was really bad, to be honest. Nowadays I'm not terrible. So some of my Starcraft 2 skills for sure transferred there as well.
Do you play some Brood War for fun?
Well, I played when the remaster was announced, uh, and then after that, every once in a while, but not too often anymore.
Sure. Are there any specific players you view as like your rival or your nemesis?
Mm, I wouldn't say I necessarily have a nemesis. I feel like in general I have pretty good records against everyone. But also when it comes to rivalries, I'm not sure if I can say I feel like I have one. But Rainer is probably the closest one to that, just because we obviously share the same region, we share the same race, and we like to compete against each other. And I think it's always a very close series if we face up. So he's probably the biggest rival for me. Obviously nowadays we are teammates and we work together. So, but yeah, Stargate's always a solo game. So when we play against each other, it's a bit of a big competition then always.
Makes sense. Yeah, the ZVZ is a bit of a chaotic matchup, and I think Rainer thrives on the chaos a little bit.
He does.
How do you feel about the Starcraft scene as it is right now?
I think Starcraft scene has always been a very pleasant place to be in. I mean, I've been here for a very long time, and I always liked most people. To be honest, there's very few people I didn't like. And to be honest, to say I didn't like someone would be a bit of a lie. I feel like maybe I like a neutral relationship with some people, but most people just have always been really nice, and everyone has been pretty close. So the scene has always been nice. I think even fans and everyone outside, even the players, is just always has been good memories and good experiences mainly. So just in general, a very good scene, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting concept that a lot of people started spouting these dead game memes, and to some people it wasn't memes back in 2013, 2014. And you only rose to prominence, 7 years after the game came out. And I mean, by the numbers, you're the most successful player ever. Do you feel badly about that perspective that people are sort of down on the game, or do you not really care?
I don't really care too much. But obviously it's always a bit sad when that side comes out, that people just say that all the time. But obviously Starcraft isn't the biggest game, so I mean, it's a reasonable opinion, but I don't think that's what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, I don't remember who said this, but I remember somebody back in the day saying something along the lines of like, just because with a car analogy, right? Like if you have one car, like a high spec Mercedes or something, it's a relatively fast car. And just because a Ferrari is faster doesn't mean that the original car is not fast anymore. And I kind of like that perspective with Starcraft, right? Like maybe Counter-Strike or League of Legends got bigger than Starcraft, but that doesn't mean that Starcraft doesn't still have a very lively scene.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good example as well. And I do think the Starcraft scene has always been very nice, and just in general, it's far from a dead game, that's for sure. And hope to see it go on longer as well.
Yeah, it's funny to see people say things like dead game, but then you have people like yourself flying around the world, and even commentators like Roddy, just constantly traveling for these events, and seems quite silly to call something dead that has all of these international events and great prize pools and stuff. But moving on from that, so moving into the future, if some of the larger events stop happening, would you still compete in like the smaller, like homegrown, grassroots tournaments?
Well, it always depends on if I'm gonna keep playing, obviously. If it's only smaller events, then it's hard to say if it makes any sense to keep playing at that point. But obviously it's very hard to say what my decision will be, since I just kind of like to go with the waves and see what happens, and always take a year at a time and see how they started that year seems like, and if it's smart to keep playing. Obviously for me, there is also my military service and those things which I have to go to at some point. So I have some other stuff in my mind as well, which I have to finish at some point.
What is the age cutoff for the enrollment?
For the military?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. I think the age cutoff is not 29, but it doesn't exactly mean that getting delayed that far is very easy. I already have to work for it a little bit. It's not just that I'm gonna delay it now for 1 year again. They will come back to me and say that we kind of have to have a plan when I will go there. It's not exactly 29. It's a bit more complicated than that. But yeah.
Are there any career paths you've sort of thought about outside of esports?
No, I haven't. Like I said, I like to go with the one day at a time, and I haven't thought too far. And I always like to say that when I go to military, I have time to think there what I'm gonna do next.
I think that's a good mentality. What are your thoughts on StormGate?
I don't have too many thoughts on StormGate just because we haven't really seen much. Obviously, it's exciting in its own way, and it's exciting to have something new at some point. But yeah, just for now, I haven't really seen much. And personally, I don't have a lot of expectations, just so I won't have any disappointments. But I hope it's gonna be good, and if it's gonna be good, I think a lot of people will maybe jump in there, and yeah, we'll see when the time comes.
If there is a professional scene around it, is that something you see yourself participating in?
I have been thinking about it, and I'm still not sure. It's something I could jump into for sure, but at the same time, I have been in the scene for a very long time already, and I feel like at some point, it's my time to move forward as well. So it all depends on when StormGate will be actually coming out and that kind of stuff. So it's just a bit far away still, I feel like.
So we are here live at Home Story Cup in Krefeld, hot on the heels of your victory in Jönköping. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. I took a little break after Jönköping. Was enjoying the midsummer festival and kind of coming here with an open mind, just playing my games, not taking this. Well, obviously, always you take tournaments seriously. I always try my absolute hardest, but still kind of just coming here, more enjoy being here and just play the games and see how it goes. If my best can just win me another Home Story Cup, obviously it would be nice to. I think would be my 7th win, or would be actually 8th maybe, or 7th. I'm not sure which one.
I think 7th, but I'm not sure.
Well, it would be nice, but at the same time with the Saudi event and everything coming, those are where the biggest focus is on.
Somebody told me you were very confident going into Jönköping, and you thought you would take that match, or take that tournament if you played well. Is that true?
Yeah, I was pretty confident. I think I was playing very good. I'm still playing good, and I feel like all this. Like after Katowice, to be honest, even Katowice, I was pretty good at. I just mainly lost CVCs there, but yeah, this year has been going pretty well, and in general, I have been very confident in my play in everywhere I have played, and yeah, Jönköping, I was confident going in there. It went well. I managed to win it, so I guess the confidence was for a reason.
Yeah, makes sense. So that's all I really had for you, Joona. Do you have any closing words?
Well, should I watch the camera for this one?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks to Basilisk for all the support, and thanks to all the fans for all the kind words and all the support that has been happening for past years. And yeah, what's all the Home Story Cup games? Well, this is actually going to be after Home Story Cup, so no, that doesn't make any sense, but...
They can watch the VODs.
Yeah, they can watch the VODs then.
Makes sense. Well, there you go. That about does it. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, get subscribed. I have lots more interviews with awesome RTS people to come.